Hey everybody, Eric here for the weekly news recap for the 7th to the 13th of November 2022. Okay, so we'll just jump straight into the news. So this week, Nintendo had an Indie World showcase thing where they show off a bunch of trailers and upcoming games coming from independent developers. So we'll just go through Eurogamer here from Matt Wales has a rundown of all of the trailers and such that were shown off. So the first game shown off is called Venba from Inside Games. It's a cooking-based narrative adventure. It's coming out in the spring of next year. It's meant to be this kind of story. It's meant to be this kind of story adventure where you are playing an immigrant parent who's trying to reconnect with their roots. You try to help your family reconnect with their roots by cooking for the most part. Making a scene from where they're originally from and that kind of thing. And it's mostly that kind of cooking puzzle stuff, but also trying to reconnect with your family and reconnect with your roots and that kind of thing. That is Venba. Probably pronouncing that wrong. We had Goodbye World from Yofuji, and it's about two game developers who are having to work part-time at this retail store that they hate, just to kind of make ends meet so that they can keep making their game. And it's kind of the story of how they go about their day doing that, having to put up with, workplace bullshit, and then also trying to make the game workplace. You can also play the game that they make. It's some kind of puzzle platformer type thing. You can see it's got the kind of retro Game Boy aesthetic to it. But yeah, another kind of story thing. Goodbye World. Then we have a Nice Death that I kind of pointed out a while ago. It's an action roguelike thing from Magic Design Studios. It's going to be out on the 22nd of March next year. Have a Nice Death is kind of the Dead Cells with more of a Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic to it. You are the Grim Reaper. You're head of Death Co. or Death Inc. or something like that. But you've kind of delegated a lot of your work to your subordinates, and they're doing too good a job. Everybody is dying. Too many people are dying. So you're like, okay, guys, you gotta calm down. You're killing too many people. So I gotta come out there and remind you who is boss, literally. So that's what Have a Nice Death is meant to be. I think it's been in early access for a bit, but it'll be out March, end of March next year. Looking forward to playing a bit more of that. Or playing that at all, really. Not playing a bit more. Aka from Cosmic Gato, coming out 15th of December of this year, is a small open world game that looks to sit somewhere between a farming sim and an exploration adventure. So the idea is that you're playing Aka. You are a retired adventurer, right? So you've had your adventures, you've had your big action set pieces and such, and now you are looking to retire and make a little farm, make a little place for yourself, help out the local inhabitants and stuff like that. So it's meant to be very much a chill, cozy thing. You do get kind of roped in to help out, take down monsters and that kind of thing, but you're not going for this big epic sweeping adventure anymore. You're like, I wanna just relax. I've done all of that now. I don't want to do anything else. So it's that kind of thing. It's like warring against it that you do want to go back to that world, but at the same time you know that you don't want to be there anymore. Pepper Grinder is very much more actiony, adventure-y type thing. This is from REC. It's an action-packed big adventure. It's what it's called. Next year, no specific date. This looks really fun. So you have a drill, and you can use that to drill down into the environment and use it to make these kind of big sweeping jumps and attacks. Drill up through people. So this looks like it'll be very interesting and then very frustrating at the same time, because you're gonna fuck up these jumps constantly. I'm just gonna be super pissed off about it. Well, at least I am. I know that's what's gonna happen. But yeah, it does have a bit of a Shovel Knight vibe to it, but it's clearly got a lot more. Sorry, not a lot more, but it's much faster paced than Shovel Knight. So looks interesting. We'll give that a go. That's called Pepper Grinder. Out at some stage next year. Coffee Talk episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterly? Oh, it's Hibiscus and Butterly? That can't be right. Butterfly, okay, it's type. was like, that doesn't make sense. Coffee Talk 2, coming from Toge Productions. A caffeine and conversation adventure, Coffee Talk, coming out next spring. So Coffee Talk, the original, was a pretty good visual novel. It had some very light puzzle elements in that you had to brew specific drinks for people. Like, they didn't tell you necessarily what they wanted, they just gave you a kind of vibe. You know, I want something sweet, but not something bitter, etc. That kind of thing. And you had to sort of just figure out what they wanted. The other crux of it is that you're in some kind of modern day fantasy land, because you have Occupy, elves, orcs, banshees, that are all just going about their day like everybody else. They have their own trials and tribulations. They're all very human issues, you know. Parents don't talk to me, or I have to run away from home, or my boyfriend's being a shit, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. The original was very fun. I liked it. Which it would have to be, because this is a visual novel. And unfortunately, the original writer and developer of the first game died in between production of this. They had gotten most of production of episode 2 done. They died, and it had been finished off by some of their friends and stuff like that. So it's a bit bittersweet. But it's good that the game did come out, or is going to come out. So yeah, I have been meaning to put it on the channel, because I did like it. I think I'll do that sooner rather than later. Oni, Road to the Mightiest Oni. Didn't get the memo about using the same word in the title twice, but okay. From developer Tensai Design and Shueisha Games. This is coming out 9th of March next year. It is a combat system requiring players to control both characters at the same time. So you play the titular Oni, and you got owned big time by, I guess, a character from another game kicked the shit out of you, and you're like, I gotta get better at this. This is embarrassing. So you go off on this big adventure to improve your skills and get better, and maybe come back and kick that guy's ass. And all the while you are English fails me today. There's a guy just following you, I guess. This kind of spirit dude. And the two of you are controlled together at the same time. So they don't have independent controls. It's like moving one guy will also move the other guy, and so on. So it looks like it's going to be fairly complex combat. For that kind of thing, I think this is the guy who kicked the shit out of you. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think it takes itself terribly seriously, so I think it'll be an okay thing. Desta, the memories between, is from Us 2, who you may know from Monument Valley or Alba, a Wildlife Adventure. More on that in a second. This is going to be a character-driven roguelike ball game. Out early next year, and I was struggling to even remember this game, to be honest, because I was looking back through that article. Yeah, remember that game, so on. I don't remember the trailer for this at all. This will be new to me as well, because I really don't remember it. But if it's anything like Monument Valley and Alba, it will be, you know, well made at the very least, even if it won't be exactly to everyone's cup of tea. I think the idea is you get over your, you know, issues with people by playing volleyball, more or less, against each other. That's the deal. Maybe it's not get smacked. I think that's the idea. As you can see, there's no actual gameplay. I think that's why I just blanked it. But anyway, it's from the Monument Valley guys. At the very least, they will play well. Space for the Unbound is a slice of life adventure set in 90s rural Indonesia. There's no mention of a developer here, but this is Toge Productions as well. On the 19th of January next year. So there was some talk about Toge Productions and their former publisher for this particular game, Space for the Unbound. They were having issues because their publisher took out a grant in their name and then didn't forward the money onto them. So there's a big stink about that, which held up publishing of this game. But that has been ironed out now, so I guess they're all, you know, full steam ahead to get the game out. So this is these two characters growing up rural Indonesia. They somehow have superpowers, but it's still kind of trying to keep it grounded, you know, a slice of life kind of thing. But obviously it goes a bit nuts at some point. That's the case, as you can see. I don't know. It looks fun. I'll simply give it a look. I don't know how to DONG or Done, something like that. Anyway, this is from developer Un Je ne sais quoi. It was first unveiled back in 2020, so yeah, I do remember seeing artwork for this ages ago. It's a tale of a long forgotten childhood summers coming out spring next year. So this is a game that is split across two timelines. There is a kind of 30-year-old woman who's come back to her grandparents to, I think, take stock of their will or assets or something like that, and you're reminiscing about the summers you used to spend here. And then the second part of the game is the summers you used to spend here. So as you can see, it is gorgeous. It's a beautiful looking game. You have a pony Walkman as well, I guess. Yeah, I think a lot of playing that is just how nice it looks. The real question is, what exactly is the gameplay? It's still not entirely clear. It's out in spring next year. I guess we'll find out then. Botany Manor, once again, I'll mention the developer's name here. I actually don't know who made this. Not a problem. Anyway, tasked with solving plant-based puzzles and preserving a collection of fertile flora. It's going to be out next year. So Botany Manor is, you inherit this manor. Botany Manor has lots of plants, has lots of places for plants. So you are going about solving plant-based puzzles. Essentially, that is, how do I make this plant grow? Is it in the right environment? Is it in the right pot? Does it have the right food? Does it have the right stimulants? All that kind of stuff. Other things are unearthing other seeds that are in places that they won't grow, and you need to find places for them to grow and stuff like that. And all the while, there's an overarching story of retirement, I think. But it's clearly going to be a fairly chill experience. There are some clips of actual gameplay. Maybe a different trailer. Because the thing is, the Indie World Showcase has multiple trailers for the same game. And I think these are only like the launch, not launch, but the kind of more cinematic trailers rather than the gameplay type trailers. Anyway, Once Upon a Jester is actually out today. Best friends Sock and Jester devise a plan to steal the Royal Diamond. So I had known nothing about this game until I saw a very brief Let's Play of it. And it is hilarious. It's meant to be kind of like improv theater or improv comedy. The voice acting in it, there was like an interview with the developers. The developers do the voice acting as well. It's clearly amateur, but it's also clearly like the first take. They just went with it, and you can definitely hear it, and it's so it's funny because it's amateur, and I guess probably like it's a Dutch developer, so the Dutch accent probably helps as well. But the little bit that I saw in of the Let's Play is hilarious. So I'm actually really looking forward to playing it. Rogue Legacy 2, it's been out on PC for a while. It was in early access, launched 1.0 in April, and is now on Switch as well. So if you're not familiar, Rogue Legacy is a roguelike, kind of like a Castlevania roguelike kind of thing. It's kind of, unique selling point, if you like, is that every subsequent character, every subsequent run is the heir of the previous character. So you do carry over like genetic traits through generations and stuff like that. So eventually, like the character that's way down the line, way down the family tree, has inherited a bunch of extra things. You don't quite inherit absolutely everything, and there is, mutations and so on. So you'll get different variants and that kind of thing. That's the whole point of a roguelike game, is that there's a certain amount of randomness to it. But that's kind of the gist of it. You have your heirs kind of thing. Rogue Legacy is well received. It has very good critical reception. I don't like it particularly, but that's really just more of a me thing than anything else. The game itself is good. I will grant it that. Blanc is an artistic cooperative adventure coming out on 14th of February, Valentine's Day. It is a entirely co-op game, so you are meant to play it with somebody else. You are playing as, or one of you is playing as a fawn, and another one of you is playing as a wolf cub, or a wolf pup. Probably pup. Anyway, you are separated from your families, and you are basically trying to get through the environment and get back to your families using each character's unique abilities. So the wolf cub can get through small spaces. It's also quite strong. The fawn is tall, can reach tall objects, and it's also a much better jumper than the wolf pup and stuff like that. They all have their own different things, which you won't be able to get through solo. You'll need both of them. And also, it looks really nice. Anyway, 14th of February for that one. them any way you want. You know, you can use any heuristic you want. You know, smallest to biggest, biggest to smallest, colors, that kind of thing. There are multiple solutions to every puzzle, so you just need to there isn't like one set. I think like there are a couple of puzzles that have only one set solution, but most of them have multiple solutions. And you just go about doing that. It's like a fun kind of idle thing, and then a cat lives in the house with you and will just randomly fuck your shit. Or the more annoying thing of it. The whole thing is that it's just, you know, stuff in your environment that's already there anyway. You're just gonna tidy it up. And that is available today on Switch and PC. And then Sports Story is the follow-up to Golf Story, or RPG Golf Story, and that came out in 2017. So again, Sidebar Games, this will be out in December. So Sports Story is just kind of just growing it out. It's not golf anymore. It's many, many sports. They do go through a lot of them. Even if you don't necessarily like sports, I still wouldn't put you off Sports Story or Golf Story for that matter either, because yeah, I mean, yes, you are playing golf and whatever, volleyball, basketball, BMX, fishing, etc. It's not really what it's about. It's really an RPG at the heart of it, because you're still doing dungeon crawling. You're still having like an epic fight on a tennis court out in the middle of the ocean kind of stuff. You know, it's very much very silly. But they're fun games, or rather, Golf Story was a very fun game, and I think Sports Story, I imagine, will be much the same. And that was it for the big titles. There's then kind of sizzle reel of upcoming games, and soon enough, Wobble Dogs is a kind of procedurally generated pet game, where the dogs are all wobbly. They're like very blocky polygon kind of stuff, and they wobble about the place, and you just look after them. It's out later this month. It's like later next week, actually. Inscription is coming to Switch. It's been on everything now at this point, so 1st of December on Switch. Storyteller, 22nd of March. That doesn't exist. 23rd of March next year. Storyteller is an interesting game because here is a set 3 panels, like a comic. And here are some characters, here are some situations, tell the story. You know, we're going to figure out what the story is. And the fun part is that it will just go with it, no matter what you put down. Like, you have a set number of things you can put down. So there's only so many, you know, combinations you can make. And there is one that is correct. There's some that are like, yeah, this still works as a story. We'll go with it. It's a very interesting presentation. Anyway, WrestleQuest is a pro wrestling RPG. It's like a pixel art kind of 80s WWF, when it was still called the WWF kind of thing. It looks hilarious. World of Horror, you may have seen. This is a kind of black and white turn-based horror game. It's super creepy. I think it's been in early access for a good while now, and I think it'll be out of early access in summer next year. And then Curse of the Sea Rats, I don't remember. The name, I don't remember seeing it in the Indie World Showcase, so I may have zoned out on that part. But it's a hand-animated piratical Bratoidvania, which honestly sounds good, so I'm surprised I don't remember it. Anyway, that was the Indie World Showcase for this week on Nintendo. I'll leave this article in the description if you want. Also, you can just jump on YouTube and watch it. It's very short. Other updates during the week. So this is a game called The Perceiver, or Project The Perceiver. That's sort of just come out of nowhere and looks incredible. So Chinese. Yeah, I don't think they had a anyway, ancient Chinese fantasy kind of stuff. It has a lot of Sekiro in it. I'm going to skip ahead past this stuff, which is mostly just setting up story, and I'm going to jump into kind of more gameplay kind of things. So it's a bit Sekiro in that you have a lot of jumping, you have a lot of rooftop combat, there's a focus on deflection. But yeah, it looks really good. Now YouTube is going to annihilate this, as will Twitch. And also I am like rebroadcasting that YouTube video to you, so the bitrate is going to look awful, and this probably won't look as good. So I would encourage you to seek out the video yourself. But yes, it looks very, very good. It is another one of those action RPG massive core kind of things, sure. I'm sure people are getting tired of them at this point, but for me, I'm not getting tired of them. I seem to be offline. Shit show. Am I online or not? My app says I'm not online. Hang on. I need to check the actual my own channel. Okay. The Twitch app says I'm not online, but I am online. Weird. Anyway, let me just get my own chat back up. Right, and also that audio has been very loud this whole time, so big apologies on that one. It's also probably the wrong music too. This has been a mess. Anyway, we're just gonna keep going. Anyway, Project the Perceiver is a kind of Chinese massive core RPG kind of thing. Yeah, it looks interesting. We don't know a whole lot about story. This is clearly a boss fight. There's very good animation. You've got this guy who kind of dances back, flings knives at you and stuff like that. Come on, do the thing. Do the thing I was talking about. Could have sworn he did it like all the time in this fight. There he goes. Yeah, anyway, it looks really good, is my point. Then Blacktail. This is the Baba Yaga video game. It's a first-person archery kind of thing. So we've only gotten a more like a cinematic trailer for it up until this point, and now we're getting more of like a gameplay thing. So it's going to be like a first-person archery with some kind of off-to-the-side mini games. The idea is you have to make a choice between whether you're going to be the good witch or the bad witch, Baba Yaga, essentially. Yeah, first-person archery is difficult to get right, so I'd be curious to see how well they do. It's all about the feel of it. Having to deal with arrow drop and stuff like that. Obviously, first-person shooters don't have to deal with that too much because bullets are, very fast, and the bullet drop isn't very obvious. Arrows, again, very fast, but arrow drop is annoying and it's hard to predict and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Elsewhere, Awesome Games Done Quick has dropped their schedule. So it's going to be starting in January of next year. I've highlighted a few of them starting January 8th for me. Your dates and times may differ. This is set in my own time zone. I highlighted a couple of ones that I think will be interesting. Breath of the Wild is only like 30 minutes, which is insane. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes is doing a full stealth, no kills thing. I haven't seen Metal Gear Solid 5 done as a speedrun before. Now, it's only Ground Zeroes, which is a very small demo prequel area, which makes sense because the full game would be way too long. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, similarly, very rarely seen a speedrun of it, so I'd be interested to see what they're doing with it. Onimusha 2, Samurai's Destiny, same reason, never seen a speedrun of it. Superliminal is a very strange puzzle game, and it's all about forced perspective. So I would be curious to see how the speedrun works. Do they use any of those mechanics to just absolutely break it? I imagine they do, because 32 minutes is very fast. Astral Chain, never seen a speedrun of it, and Astral Chain is a really good action game from Platinum that doesn't get a lot of... It doesn't get a lot of press, people don't really talk about it, and it's a really good game. So I'd like to see that. Final Fantasy VII, no slots. I'm just not sure what that means. Does it mean no materia? So essentially no magic items. It's 7 hours. Maybe that is what it means. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I'm only looking at this one because it's a race. The races are always fun. I think there are some randomizers and stuff like that. That was kind of a cursory review of it. I was just looking at games that are like, I haven't seen a speedrun of that before, so I'd be interested to see it. As I was talking about with the dodgeball game, also by Us2, this is Alba Wildlife Adventure. This is a free game on Epic Games right now. This is the last game they made before their new one, and it is similarly a kind of... Or not similarly, but it is even the smallest person can make a big difference. Join Alba. She sets out to save her beautiful island and its wildlife and possibly start a revolution. it's a kind of chill, talk to people, help them out kind of game. And then Shadow Tactics, Blaze of the Shogun is, if you remember the old Commando games where you commanded this team of commandos, as you might imagine, who all had their own different abilities and stuff like that, and you had to take them through war zones and levels and stuff. This is, the same basic idea, but it's like more modern, but it is using ninja for the same thing. So it's 5 different assassins who all have their own unique abilities, and they have missions to complete and stuff like that. It looks interesting. I've been dying to play another Tenchu, is the thing, and this is probably about as close as I'll get to it. Anyway, that is a Shadow Tactics, and then PlayStation Plus has dropped their plans for the next PlayStation Plus update. I am definitely broadcasting. I don't know, it's just that the Twitch app still says I'm offline. Anyway, it's annoying me. Anyway, so the PlayStation Plus Essential was already out. It was Heavenly Bodies and Neo 2. So PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium games that are out are going to be out later on this week. So Skyrim, the Special Edition, not the Anniversary Edition. This is important. The Anniversary Edition is the one that has all the good shit in it. Special Edition does not. Special Edition includes the critically acclaimed game and add-ons with all new features like remastered art and effects, volumetric God rays, dynamic depth of field, screen space reflections, and more. What the fuck does the Anniversary Edition have then? I might have to look into that more. I could have sworn the Anniversary Edition is the one that had the volumetric dynamic depth of field and all that stuff. Anyway, Rainbow Six Siege also dropping onto it, which is a 5v5 tactical type thing. Bunch of Kingdom Hearts games, so Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix, the Kingdom Hearts names, Jesus Christ, which is just Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 HD. Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, fuck's sake, which is a small game that's set just after 2 and before 3. Kingdom Hearts 3, which is Roman numerals 3, despite the rest of them using fucking floating points, but okay. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory is a card game, I think. No, it's not. It's an action rhythm game. Okay. Interesting. Alright, Melody. That makes sense. Oddworld Soulstorm Enhanced Edition. Oddworld Soulstorm has been on PlayStation Plus before. Chances are you already have it. This is the Enhanced Edition. Tom Clancy's The Division 2, an open world action RPG thing that I think is already dying. So you're kind of getting into it late in that case. Ghost Recon Breakpoint is The Division without the online part. Chorus is actually a really good space dogfighting game. Like, it's actually very, very good. Do give that one a look. What Remains of Edith Finch is a critically acclaimed narrative walkie-talkie game. I don't like it. There's one particular scenario in it that I do like, but the vast majority of the game I don't actually like that much. But I'm very much in the minority. Most people like that game. The Gardens Between is a like the PlayStation's Fez, more or less. Lost in a mysterious realm where cause and effect are malleable, two friends find that time flows in all directions. Manipulate time to solve puzzles and reach the apex of each aisle. Follow the duo as they unpack and explore their significant moments spent together, lighting up constellations and illuminating threads of bittersweet narrative. It's a puzzle game. You have two characters, and they are basically dropped onto like different levels, and you have to figure out a way to get to the top of it. And all the while, they have a story that they're talking about. And then they just throw these ones in without giving them like any blurb or anything like that. Now I'm curious, how many of the ones Western, Japanese, but Square Enix, so they you can kind of wave that away. Also, it's all Kingdom Hearts games. Oh yeah, Japanese developer games. Let's just fucking throw them under the bus. Anyway, Earth Defense Force, World Brothers, Earth Defense Force, Iron Rain are kind of schlocky shooters where you are defending the Earth against invasive aliens and bugs and that kind of stuff. Just think of like the old 60s and 70s shitty space invasion films. It's that, more or less. And Oni Chanbara Origin is questionably clothed schoolgirls slicing up zombies. You can see why they threw these actually under the bus. Anyway, PlayStation Plus Premium, it's Ratchet & Clank's anniversary. It's 20th anniversary, I think. So they've pretty much thrown as many of the remaining Ratchet and Clanks, I think, onto PlayStation Plus Premium. These are all stream only. You cannot download these because the PlayStation 5 cannot play PS3 games. So you have to stream them, which means the vast majority of people can't play these games. And this is kind of a criticism that's being leveled at PlayStation Plus Premium in particular. So the PlayStation Plus Premium idea is that you will have access to the back catalog from PS3 back to PS1. So it's including PSP and PS Vita. The issue is that they seem to be focusing mostly on PS3 for the last while, which means it has to be streaming only, which means a lot of people, because of their internet, won't be able to play it properly. Even people with very good internet are still going to be subjected to lag in a lot of places. They even have a tier that's not mentioned here, but they do have a tier for territories that don't have PlayStation streaming. They have PlayStation Plus Deluxe, which is effectively PlayStation Plus Premium without the streaming part. Now, the thing is, if you're paying $16 a month and you don't have the streaming part, and the only things that are getting updated are the streaming parts, why are you paying $16 a month? You know? Or if you're someone in a territory where your internet isn't good enough to stream a PS3 high-definition game, which is a lot of places, you're paying money for something you can't use. You know? So it's big questions about what they're doing with PlayStation Plus Premium, because it's not working out. They really, really need to go back and focus on PS1, PS2 games, PSP games, you know, because there's a lot of missing ones there. There's a lot of really big games that are missing, you know. I went back there looking for it. I was only talking about it in the Resident Evil Let's Play yesterday. There's no way to play Resident Evil 2 on a PlayStation platform right now. The original Resident Evil 2. There's no way to play Metal Gear Solid right now. The original Metal Gear Solid. You can play the HD versions of 2 and 3, but you can't play MGS1. You can't play the original Gran Turismo. You can't play the original Tekken, the original Tekken 3. You can't play the original Wipeout, and so on. You can't play the original Crash Bandicoot. You know? This is a problem. These are like games that are almost synonymous with PlayStation. You know, Dino Crisis, also can't play that. Ridge Racer, also can't play that. Those are the games you should be focusing on. I get Ratchet and Clank is also a big PlayStation tentpole, sure. And also it still has a modern incarnation where a lot of those games don't. Sure, I get it, but the people playing for premium are like your diehard PlayStation fans. Typically. Or they're industry people who need access to as many games as they can get. The focus is weird. It's just what I'm putting out. You know, we're a couple of months into this new PlayStation Plus, and they still don't know what they're doing with it. It's very typical of Sony, I guess, to be fair. Anyway, new releases for this week. So, those are some games that you can play eventually, but what games can you play right now? Well, one that I'm sure you have seen ads for all over the place and are under no illusions that it's out this week is God of War Ragnarok. And that's all I'm talking about. It's out. Go look at it. I don't want to get spoiled. Okay. Sonic Frontiers also released this week, which you may not have known because of all the news about God of War Ragnarok. And from what I've seen of it, it's weird. That's kind of been the takeaway from a lot of people playing it, is that it's like I shouldn't like this, but I do. It's like, or I'm bored, but I can't stop playing it and stuff like that. So clearly it's doing something right, that people still feel like they want to keep playing it, but not right enough that people are like, I am like unequivocally enjoying it. Something weird going on. So Sonic Frontiers is allegedly the open world Sonic game. It is somewhat open world. It's not like as open as something like Breath of the Wild or something like that. There are like distinct islands that have a bunch of like little mini encounters, little mini puzzles, little mini roller coaster bits and grind rails and stuff like that. There's also a fair bit of Shadow of the Colossus going around it, that there's these giant creatures roaming about the place that you can take on. It's just so weird. Such a weird game. Like, Sonic is a very colorful character, as you can just look at that. You know, it's a very colorful thing. And when you drop into those levels, yeah, it's great. When you're back out into the open world area, it's like very gloomy, very depressing, very muted color palette. And then you have Sonic, who's like bright blue, bombing around the place. You know, it's just very weird. And then he goes Super Saiyan. When has Sonic been able to go Super Saiyan? To be fair, I haven't played a Sonic game in a very, very long time, but I don't remember him going Super Saiyan. Anyway, that's Sonic Frontiers. Tactics Ogre Reborn. So this is a remake or remaster of the original Tactics Ogre. Tactics Ogre is largely credited with starting the strategy RPG genre of like this grid-based team taking on another team on this like small grid and doing RPG stuff. By all accounts, Tactics Ogre Reborn is the original game, but better. So if you like the original game, chances are you'll like this too. Some people were annoyed at the changes to some of the art. So it is originally a pixel art game. As you can see, a lot of things have been smoothed out here, and they feel it has lost a bit of character because of that. Other games have been shown to be able to keep the kind of pixel art and not, you know, lose a lot of the character, a lot of the personality of the characters or what have you. That may not be as big a deal to you when you get deep into the game, but I guess looking at it side by side, yeah, the sprites of the original game do look better than these sprites. But I'm sure you'll find a mod that'll put them back in eventually. Save Room. Save Room started as a joke, right? It started as almost an April Fool's Day kind of game. So it is essentially anyone who has played Resident Evil 4 will probably recognize this kind of screen. This is the attaché case from Resident Evil 4, which is effectively your inventory screen. And it was a little bit like Tetris, trying to fit everything in. And you know, you could convince yourself that if I put this thing in a particular pattern, then I'll be able to fit this one extra herb in and stuff like that. In general, no. It didn't really matter. And the game itself did a pretty good job of automating it anyway. But, you know, there was an April Fool's prank joke thing, which was, why don't we just make a whole game that's this? You know, like a puzzle thing where you need to fit all these things in, and, you know, if you use up a health item, then you won't have to make space for something. And if you know, reload the gun or something like that, or attach something else, or combine these herbs to fill up space and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's out now. If you want to play it, it's very much a silly joke game. And as mentioned in the Nintendo Indie World thing, a little to the left is the puzzle game that I was talking about, where you can just arrange things in different pleasing patterns. That there isn't a particular there isn't one particular solution to all of these puzzles. You just put things where you feel like they fit, and it should look nice and pleasing, and so on. And that's kind of the gist of it. And also there's a cat that will come around and fuck stuff up every now and then. And Once Upon a Jester again, same thing from the Indie World Showcase. This was announced same day as it was released. Or sorry, no, it was announced a good while ago, but its release date trailer was like, lol, it's out, go play it. And it's very, very funny, so I would encourage that. Anyway, that's it for new releases. However, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games. The video game industry. So, Disco Elysium studio Zaum confirms former employees were fired for misconduct. So, this is kind of following on from another story that we looked at a couple of weeks ago, where the Disco Elysium founders were mysteriously let go from the company earlier this year. No one was told that they were let go. It was never put out in the press release that they had left, and so on. Up until like only a couple of weeks ago, people were still pretty sure they were working there. They were even people were even looking for them to do interviews and stuff like that, and they were saying, sorry, they're very busy right now, and not, lol, they don't work here anymore. So the studio has said that these people were fired for misconduct, and these people are like the figureheads of the company. You know, it's like creative director and stuff like that. So Studio Zaum has confirmed a report of mismanagement and misconduct among former senior employees. Robert Kurzwitz, Helen Hinpier, and art director Alexander Rostov had been dismissed from the company last year. While they said there were reasons for recent dismissals, such as mismanagement and misconduct, they did not name specifically those people, or anyone for that matter. Studio said the dismissed employees had limited to no engagement in their responsibilities, created a toxic work environment, demonstrated misconduct towards other employees, including verbal abuse and gender discrimination, and attempted to illegally sell Zaum's intellectual property. You could potentially argue that it was their intellectual property, but okay, sure. Earlier, in the month. Kurvitz, as well as a couple of other those named people, had sued Zaum to obtain and review documents. And there were no details about what exactly those documents were, but later on we'll probably discover that they were probably stuff like financials and that kind of thing, because they're alleging something else is going on. Anyway, CEO of Zaum, Ilmar Kompos, has said that the studio has been suffering under a toxic environment because of these people, and accused Disco Elysium designer Robert Kurvitz and Sandor Tal, who is apparently Alexander Rostov, it's a pseudonym he uses, of humiliating colleagues and intending to steal IP. They treated their co-workers very badly. Despite talking to them repeatedly, things did not improve. Therefore, the company was forced to fire them. Robert Kurvitz is said to have been known for belittling women and co-workers in the past, but this was previously unknown to the company. It would be very short-sighted of a growing international company to tolerate such behavior. I don't know. Activision seems fine with it. And they're not the only ones. Anyway, talking to sources inside the company, so this is like lower down the food chain, people who wanted to remain anonymous because they might lose their jobs otherwise. They described the situation between Kurvitz and co. with the CEO as a clash of two visions between the business team of Zaum, led by Kompos, and the creative team formerly headed by Robert Kurvitz, which considered profit secondary. They describe it as CEO corporate scheming on one side and a toxic auteur on the other. So it doesn't sound like either party is great in this kind of thing. Zaum made a statement to Games Industry Biz. The rumor that our decision to terminate the contracts of these individuals was taken for financial gain is entirely unfounded and does not in any way reflect the facts. Now, Kurvitz and co. dispute this, as comes up later in this update down here. This coming from Martin Luiga, who was co-founder of the Zaum Cultural Association and editor of the Disco Elysium novel, said that the work was organized in such a way that the goal did not seem to be to make games, but rather to make people quarrel with each other. So it sounds like it was a fantastic place to work. Ugh. Anyway, in an update, Alexander Rostov and Robert Kurvitz shared a post that claimed that the majority stake in Zaum Studio, the entity that owns the Disco Elysium IP, was obtained fraudulently. So this is why they were looking for those financial documents, because they wanted to see how exactly did you get the finance to buy us out when we weren't planning on selling. There's some bullshit happening there. So the majority of the shares for the holding company, if you like, for the Disco Elysium IP is held by an investor named Marg Linmai. I almost certainly pronounced that wrong. In 2021, Linmai was bought out by another Estonian company, which the paper that this is from called A Vehicle for Ilmar Kompos and Thomas Havel. Now, Ilmar Kompos, CEO of Zaum. So, a minority shareholders, our rights are limited. As long as Linmai remained a minority shareholder, we were confident that the company's financials were in order and that all shareholders were being treated equally. The same cannot be said for Kompos and Havel. As soon as they became majority shareholders, we were quickly excluded from daily operations. Our employment was terminated and our access to the company's information was shut off. Our firing came weeks after we started asking for documents and financial data, which is still being kept from us. So these are the documents they're looking for. They're trying to figure out, where did you get the money to do this? This is Kurvitz is claiming that the money the firm used to purchase the majority stake was taken illegally from the latter. So they are alleging that they used company funds to buy itself, which is called embezzlement, which is super illegal. So we've got a bit of a both sides argument here. On one side, we've got the CEO, the business, the suit end of the company saying, we fired you because you're a shithead and nobody wants to work with you and you were impacting production, work environment and stuff like that. And they got the other side, which is more of the artistic, creative side of the company saying, no, you wanted us out of the way so you could just have all the money yourself. Who's right? Don't know. There are two lawsuits going. We'll find out eventually, I guess. But it's a bit ugly, really, because Disco Elysium is a very, very good game. It's some very, very interesting talking points, philosophies, if you like. It would claim it has no philosophies, but that's kind of the point of it, I guess. Yeah, it's like a supremely well written game. Very, very good. If you try to get your hands on it and play it, but it's very disappointing that this shit is happening with that in the firing line. Anyway, not to be done with other random gossip and scandal, Doom Eternal composer responds to false accusations made by game's executive producer 2 years later. Kind of took you a while, Mick. So this is Mick Gordon. You may recall the Doom Eternal soundtrack was given a lot of shit because it seemed like it was very low quality compared to the original, the original reboot's soundtrack, which is much beloved by Mick Gordon. Well, by everybody, and it was done by Mick Gordon. So the issue at play here is that Marty Stratton made a post on Reddit that was basically discrediting a lot of the stuff that Mick Gordon would have done for the soundtrack. It kind of leveled all of the problems with it at him, that he was being a bit of a diva about the whole thing, was constantly asking for delays and, to work on the music and, get it all just right and that kind of stuff. And then was complaining that the music director for the game, his stuff wasn't good enough and so on. So Marty Stratton was like, we just don't want to work with him anymore. And the whole reason the soundtrack is shit because he wouldn't finish his work and stuff like that. And Mick Gordon's like, no, none of that is true. You're an asshole. So in April 2020, Mick Gordon distanced himself from the soundtrack album for Doom Eternal after it received criticism from fans for its quality. A year and a half later, Gordon has written a lengthy statement rebutting Stratton's claims with screenshots of emails and legal documents. He posted a statement on Medium, which he alleged abusive behavior and manipulation by Stratton. So, Gordon claims Stratton lied about the production of the Doom Eternal soundtrack album and accused Stratton of using disinformation to place the blame on Gordon. He also accused id Software of using tracks and edits for the in-game score, which he submitted to them in good faith, rather than as part of his contract, without paying him for them. The events have been laid out in chronological order by Gordon and paint a messy picture of development. So they're talking here about the original contract. He was asked to do in-game music and provide final tracks, 2 levels per month. He considered the schedule tight, but not impossible. However, he claimed id did not provide any gameplay or level design material, so how was he meant to just conjure music out of thin air with nothing to go by? What's the level like? What's the environment like? What are the enemies like? What do you want me to do here? What kind of music are you looking for? Just go on, do music. Gordon said he proposed a different plan for development which would allow him to make changes to the music further down the line if necessary. If, I gave you this heavy rock thing and we're actually in the middle of an angel stronghold or something like that, maybe they probably don't gel together anyway. His proposal was immediately rejected by Stratton. He claimed he threw the proposal back in my face and proceeded to tear me down for having the audacity to raise the issue. He was already working all-nighters in order to meet id's demands. Gordon claimed his contract was for 142 minutes, but the number of minutes he submitted to id was more than double that amount due to requests for rewrites or outright rejection of his work. Pay was withheld from him, he has claimed, so he hasn't been paid for it. In 2019, he alleges he did not receive a payment from id for 11 months. Included in the game without his knowledge. Yeah, so he has said some music has been included in the game without his knowledge, and he has yet to receive payment for it. He's also described the events that led to the soundtrack itself. So the Doom Eternal soundtrack album was announced during 2019's E3 with him attached to it, and he claims that that's the first time he heard about it. I hadn't been offered a contract to produce it, I learned about it from the media. Gordon said Stratton refused to give him a contract for the album. Gordon said that he considered quitting the project due to withheld payments, unreasonable requests, and lack of transparency between him and management. January 2020, Gordon contacted publisher Bethesda regarding the album. So he went over Stratton's head and went to the parents. Hey, what do you want me? My name is on it. What's happening here? They negotiated a deal directly with him. Gordon has claimed that Stratton lied about the contract in his Reddit post. Stratton claims that the contract was signed in January 2020. Mick Gordon claims that it wasn't signed until March. Gordon also stated his contract was only for 12 songs and he did not have the time or budget for the 30 tracks Stratton said he committed to. So that was another criticism, is that he only turned in 12 songs, but he was meant to do 30. And Mick Gordon's like, my contract was only ever for 12 songs. I did what I was contracted for. Other contradictions include Stratton's claims that the soundtrack was delayed by Gordon's request. Gordon stated that he had not even signed the contract yet when the album was delayed. Stratton claimed Gordon was given complete creative control, while Gordon says that no, id retained creative control as well as ownership of his source files. The thing is, Gordon has the contract, like it's there in black and white. So, like a lot of it's redacted because it's like legal shit. So you could potentially say there's some stuff hidden in the redacted parts, but I don't know. Anyway, Gordon learned id had been creating an album for 6 months prior to this. He wasn't happy with the track's lead audio designer, Chad Mossholder, had created, which prompted him to confirm his limited involvement. So he's basically saying that, yeah, my name is on the album, but not all of the music there is mine. So that was the kind of the initial thing where Mick Gordon distanced himself from it, and that's when Stratton jumped in to say all this shit about him. Gordon claims Stratton got involved with the album a few days before it was due, who cut him out of the process. He was not allowed to listen to the album before its release. He also alleges many co-contributors were not credited by id. Gordon said he agreed to release a joint statement with id and claimed Stratton agreed to send him a draft statement, but the draft never arrived. Stratton posted his open letter to Reddit, so this is when the letter gets sent out to Reddit. After presenting evidence to id's parent company ZeniMax, Gordon said they quickly offered to settle. Settlement negotiations fell through. Gordon wanted Stratton to retract his Reddit statement while ZeniMax refused. They're like, no, we are not admitting culpability here. They offered a 6-figure sum to take full public responsibility for the failure of the OST soundtrack. Gordon refused. Gordon has refused to sign any settlements ZeniMax have proposed that don't have the retraction of the Reddit statement and stuff like that. Giving up my right to tell the truth just to get some money was totally unacceptable. It meant having Marty walk all over me wasn't so bad as to be beyond being paid off. The only thing left to do is issue this public response because he feels like he's never going to get a settlement that will, be acceptable to him. So he's just going to, here you go. Public release. Using NDAs, settlements, and gag orders to silence truth is an appalling tactic used by people in high positions of power, fearful of accountability. I'm choosing to speak out because the alternative was to accept that tactic as okay. So we now have quite some time later, more than 2 years later, Mick Gordon's side of that. And he does have the receipts, so you're kind of inclined to believe it. Whereas Stratton's letter was mostly just his own account of things, so unless they have something that can refute it, it's not looking good for them, and it is looking somewhat vindicated for Mick Gordon. There are, of course, now fan petitions going around to have him, reinstated and to let him redo the soundtrack and stuff like that. I find that's unlikely to happen. I imagine the whole relationship has been irredeemably soured. It'd be funny though. Okay, it's time. I know we gotta do it every week. The ritual shitting on of Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard settlement talks in esports antitrust case breakdown. So, Activision Blizzard and the US Department of Justice have been trying to settle this antitrust case regarding competitive balance tax in the esports industry, specifically around Overwatch and Call of Duty. So if you are unfamiliar, as I was, with what the competitive balance tax is, there's a little blurb here. The competitive balance tax works much like a luxury tax in traditional sports leagues. Total team salaries have an upper limit that can be exceeded, but every dollar spent above that limit requires the team to also put another dollar into a pool that will be split and given to teams that spent below the limit. So this is an idea to be able to keep the league competitive. You can't have one team that can just shower their players with money and just pull in all the good players because they can afford to pay them like 500 times their salary or something stupid like that. The competitive balance tax is, yeah, you can do that, but you also got to put in all of that money into a pool that everyone else can pull from. So that's the idea, is that the higher end never gets too higher than the lowest end kind of thing. And that was in place for Overwatch and Call of Duty. What's alleged to have happened in this antitrust case is that Activision deliberately was paying people less so that they didn't have to pay into this competitive balance thing. So they were trying to determine whether or not the competitive balance tax violated antitrust rules by keeping player salaries down. So they were saying that like this competitive balancing thing is forcing the salaries to be kept down because they end up having to pay into this competitive pool thing. And they're like, no, you got to pay people a proper wage as well. You can't use that as an excuse to not do that. So that's what the whole settlement case is about. So they're meant to be trying to get some kind of fee out of Activision for that, but of course Activision aren't playing ball. Traditional sports leagues have player unions that agree to such limits in collective bargaining agreements. However, video game industry does not have these. Activision Blizzard reportedly dropped its competitive balance tax and maximum player salary cap for its leagues last year, so they were free to pay as much as they wanted, and they didn't have to pay into this competitive balance thing, which is obviously extremely anti-competitive. Settlement talks fell apart because Activision Blizzard refused to terms involving rule changes that would persist after the proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft and public statements about the rule. They didn't want anybody to know about it, they didn't want to be held accountable for it, and they didn't want Big Daddy Microsoft to have to deal with it either. Fucking Activision, right? Anyway, alright, some stupid shit that was happening this week. So, Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you may know it's kind of a bit of a shit show at the moment with the whole verification thing, in that people can now just buy verification, and it means nothing. It's verification. You're buying the blue tick rather than an actual verified account. Anyway, predictably, it all went to shit. People started impersonating big companies. Somebody tanked a pharmaceutical company's stock by saying, lol, insulin's free now. And that tanked their stock by like 5% or something stupid. So yeah, some dumb shit has been happening, but the video game industry had to get involved in it too. So somebody pretended to be Nintendo of America with this great handle, which is Nintendoofus, or Nintendo of US is another way to look at it. It's another way to read it, I suppose. Just so you know, Nintendo of America's Twitter handle is Nintendo of America. Anyway, so they have Mario giving you the finger. Obviously not something the real Nintendo would do. It's still pretty funny. We have Valve announcing a brand new game that obviously didn't happen. We were excited to unveil Ricochet Neon Prime, our next competitive platform, this Thursday. Can't wait to see you all on the grid by Valve Software, or actually Valve Software. Again, you gotta read the handles, guys. Nowadays, you gotta read the handles because the verified thing means fucking nothing. And Twitch were like, lol, we heard you. We're gonna change the payouts to be like considerably better. We've heard you. After a lot of feedback from ambassadors and partners, the sub split will be changing from December to these things by the Twitch parody account again. Okay, now to be fair, I have an extension in that turns the verified tick into the stupid nerd face, but if you were watching this on Twitter, you would see the verified tick. And from first glance, you would think that's that's Twitch. It's got the tick, it says Twitch, it's Twitch. No, you gotta read the username, unfortunately, with this kind of thing. And then something about Donald Trump, but we don't need to talk about that because that's not video game things. Anyway, lots of fraud going around, but you just get some funny shit like this, which is not going to go away anytime soon. We are going to be seeing this image a lot in the future, and it's going to be very, very funny. Anyway, that's the weekly news. No, we'll make Sonic Loop instead. Anyway, that's the weekly news for the 7th to the 13th of November. Sorry about the audio issue. I thought I had the right audio selected. As you can probably hear, I've changed the music. And I've changed the music in a couple of scenes, but I hadn't realized that some scenes share the same audio source. So, yeah, some music is being shared. That is not meant to happen. So, apologies for that first section. That was probably very, very loud. And also for not knowing whether or not I was live. Twitch still says I'm not live. I don't get it. I don't understand, Twitch. Why do you keep telling me I'm not live when I definitely am live? I can see myself right there being live. Anyway. Right, anyway, that's the news. And Nintendo's Indie World Showcase was interesting. Lots of narrative games, not too many big action games. A lot of them won't be out till next year. Now, there's two that came out the day of, so they're already out. And there's one or two that will probably be out later on in the year. But the rest of them we won't be seeing until after Christmas, very least. And most of them not till the end of the fiscal year, which is March. So yeah, there's not a whole lot coming to Switch, really. Like first party stuff, I think their next thing is Pokemon, and that's it. That might even already be out. I'm not even sure. I don't follow Pokemon anymore. It may actually already be out. So yeah, there's nothing really major coming from them. We haven't really heard anything from Sony because they're all in on God of War at the moment. So there's probably, I wouldn't imagine there's anything from them before Christmas. But I can't even think what their next big first party game is. Can't think of anything. I don't know. And Xbox haven't had a first party game in fucking years, so I can't imagine that's going to change anytime soon. The Perceiver looks really good. But there was another game that was shown off. I think it was at the Game Awards. Maybe it was something else that looked very similar to it. So there might be a little bit of also ran stuff happening there. Some more stuff about Blacktail. The whole video I skipped through it pretty quickly, but it's quite lengthy and it does show off a lot of gameplay stuff that will be coming to that kind of first-person archery kind of thing. As I said, first-person archery is hard to get right, just because it's not a gun. You know, guns are just point at the thing, click on heads. You know, that's kind of what point and shoot is, or what first-person shooting is with guns. But with a bow and arrow, it's a bit different. So we'll just see how that goes. Yeah, new releases. God of War Ragnarok, I probably won't play for a while, but I am still desperately attempting to avoid spoilers for it, so don't tell me anything, please. Sonic Frontiers, I am content to watch somebody else play it. It does very much look like a Ubisoft map porn kind of thing that I'm so burnt out on that I just have no interest. Tactics Ogre Reborn, I still haven't finished Triangle Strategy, so, you know, I still have got that going for me. Save Room is such a silly game. I think I'll just have to get it just because it's so dumb. A little to the left, it just feels more like a mobile game. I don't know. It just feels like it should be on like a tablet. Maybe it will be eventually. And Once Upon a Gesture, I will have to get that because I don't think I've laughed so much in a Let's Play. Just watching us, it was just so funny. Anyway, it's all in the delivery because it's so bad. Because it's not bad on purpose kind of thing. Like it's just improv, you know, they're just improving it. They don't have a script or whatever, and they just, well, maybe they do have a script, but whatever way they do it, it's just very, very funny. Anyway, Disco Elysium stuff is just very sad. We won't really know who, like, it feels like they're both in the wrong for different reasons. Like getting them out of there because they were not creating a great environment is correct, but forcing them out through this kind of financial manipulation is also not good. You know, two wrongs don't make a right in that kind of sense. The Mick Gordon thing, I mean, he does have receipts. It's hard to argue with receipts. It's hard to argue with actual, you know, verifiable legal documents. So it kind of feels like he's more in the right. There is still like a little bit of he said, she said kind of stuff there, but there is definitely like literal contract dates, contents of the contracts. You know, I was only ever down to do 12 songs, not 30 songs, and that kind of thing. Anyway, like the Doom Eternal soundtrack is noticeably worse than Doom 2016's. Like even the exact same tracks that were on the same album, or sorry, the same tracks that are on both albums. Sound like it sounds much worse on Doom Eternals. So now by sounds much worse, it's kind of more of a like you have to be an audiophile to kind of really pick up on it. Like they sound kind of fine. It's only if you have the headphones on and you have all your balances done correctly and stuff, then you'll notice that yes, stuff is being cut off earlier. You know, it's not being allowed to attenuate. It's being like digitally clipped and stuff like that. It's, you know, I wouldn't think most people would notice, but if you know what to look for, yes, it's there. What else do we have to talk about? Yeah, the Twitter verify thing. That image of Mario giving people the finger isn't gonna go away. That's gonna be here for a very long time, I think. Anyway, that was the industry news for this week. Well, what is coming up on the channel next week? So we have here our roadmap for the second half of the year. So we have green ticks are games we've already played, yellow ticks are games that are in progress, gray clocks are games that are coming up, and if there isn't anything on it, I don't know what I'm doing with it. Anyway, so this week we finished Resident Evil, so we've played through Chris Angel's scenarios on both of them. We played a bit more of Signalis here, played a bit more of that was fun. And I didn't get around to playing Vampire and Plague Tale for various personal reasons that I won't go into, but I wasn't able to stream them. Anyway, so next week we're going to continue with Signalis. I'm having a lot of fun with this game. We did run into a scenario last week where I fought a boss and did really shit. We were very resource poor. So I have actually replayed that section and brought us back up to where we finished on the stream. So we have a lot more resources than I actually finished the stream with. So next time, we have a bit more wiggle room. But this game has been really good, and I'm really enjoying it right now. And hopefully it will continue to be good. As I said, I wasn't able to get a Vampire stream, so we're going to continue with our Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song streaming stuff. So we are just about getting to probably this scene. I imagine is what we'll be playing on Wednesday. The party scene where some shit has gone down. We don't know yet what exactly has gone down, but we're going to figure it out. Plague Tale Requiem similarly wasn't able to stream it this week, so we'll be continuing. Again, it's pretty new, so I don't want to give away any like story or plot points or stuff like that. Chapter 9? 8? 8, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway. And then Friday, so ordinarily I'd have D&D on Friday, but a couple of people won't be able to make it, so we'd have to postpone it. So instead, I'm going to play something. So 9 Years of Shadow I thought was coming out much earlier, but it hasn't. It was put back, and now it is coming out this week. So 9 Years of Shadow is a very colorful Castlevania-style game. It looks really good. It's very pretty pixel art stuff, and you know, I like games where you run really fast to the right. Or the left in some cases. So yeah, it's a bit Castlevania, it's a bit Metroid, but you have a bunch of different armor sets that have different abilities. You got like the air armor, the earth armor, the water armor, the fire armor, and stuff like that. So I'll be looking forward to playing a bit of that. However, if it turns out that I can't play it because the Steam Deck refuses to cooperate, I will instead play Somerville, which I wasn't sure I was going to be able to play because it was going to be a PC and Xbox exclusive. I don't own an Xbox, and my PC wouldn't have been able to play it. So, Steam Deck, hopefully, will be able to do it. So, Somerville... Oh, wow, that trailer's not great. Okay, probably should have watched that trailer before bringing it up. Somerville is a kind of limbo, side-scrolling puzzle thing with a kind of alien invasion thing happening. It looks really good, despite that trailer. It looks very good. And then Saturday, fingers crossed that... we'll be able to play Resident Evil 2. Now, as I said, we don't currently have a way to actually do it. So I'm going to have to either use the Source Next version of Resident Evil 2, which is the version that vast majority of speedrunners use. It is effectively the Japanese version of the PC port of Resident Evil 2. And then there are some like really well curated fan patches for it that put in English subtitles and stuff like that. The game itself is already in English. It's just that the written text is in Japanese. So there's like fan ports to put the English back in. There's some like audio changes. There's some stuff for handling controller support and stuff like that. The real issue with that though is that the Steam Deck can't play it. So I may have to stream it directly from the PC. It's an old game. It should be able to play that. Like, it's not that much of a potato. Like, it should be able to handle it. But on the off chance that it can't, I'll have to see how I can get an emulator running on either the PC or the Steam Deck. I'd like to get it running on the Steam Deck because it does free up the PC for just broadcast. You know, it doesn't have to also play a game at the same time, which might introduce like lag, drop frames, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to avoid that. So if I can get an emulator running on the Steam Deck instead, that's what I'll do. I have seen a bunch of tutorials about it, but the Steam Deck has gone through some iterative changes in the meantime, so it may not work anymore. I have a feeling that it will. I'll just have to seek out more recent tutorials and stuff like that, but that is the plan. So, next week, that is our schedule. So Monday, Signalis, continuing on from where we left off. We are somewhere. Again, the game's quite new. I'm not going to tell you where exactly. Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. I didn't actually play it last week, so we're still in the same place. We're going to go to the party aftermath and see what the fuck has happened. Plague Tale Requiem, again, quite a new game. Not going to tell you. We're about halfway through the game. That's it. 9 Years of Shadows is the one I am planning to play on Friday, and hopefully it'll run fine on the Steam Deck and there won't be any issues. So that'll be a brand new game. It's only coming out on Monday. So hopefully any Steam Deck issues will be fixed by the time we actually play it on Friday. And then Resident Evil 2, continuing the Foley Plays Resident Evil series. We've finished Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut, or just Resident Evil Director's Cut, didn't have a number. Moving on to Resident Evil 2, the OG, if I can figure out how to get somewhere to play it, because it's not currently playable on a setup that I have. Can't play it on PlayStation, can't play it on Switch. So if I can get either the SourceNext version of the PC running, or if I can get an emulator running on Steam Deck or something like that, or randomly find a PlayStation that has the HDMI out, yeah, that's definitely what I'll be playing it on. Capcom, legal, that's what I'll be doing anyway. And then the weekly news recap, which is this show, but next week. Anyway, that's it for me for today. Again, sorry about the audio issue at the beginning. OBS sources and that kind of thing. I didn't realize these scenes, actually, I'm just realizing now this is probably super loud too, is it? No, it's not. Okay. Anyway, yeah, not a whole lot I can do about that, sorry. And apparently I'm still live, but I'm not sure. I think I am. OBS says I am, and Twitch says I am, but the app says I'm not, so I don't know. Anyway, this is being recorded, so it'll leave VOD for it regardless. Anyway, have a good rest of your Sunday, and see you guys tomorrow for some more Signalis. Alright. Bye-bye.